Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the New York City Council's Committee on Women and Gender Equity. Please silence all electronic devices at this time. Anybody that would like to send in testimony, you can email it to us at testimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. Chair Caban, we're ready to begin.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tiffany Caban. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the chair of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity. It's time that we did right by survivors. This session, the Committee on Women and Gender Equity has been uncovering the barriers to accessing services that survivors face. We have heard from courageous survivors who testified before us, telling us their personal stories and identifying the institutional and policy-based factors that contributed to their lack of access to the services we owe them. I am committed to removing these barriers and proactively establishing the programs that survivors say that they need. That's why it's so important that we pass this Support Survivors legislative package. It consists of 3 items: Intro 153, 2022, a program that addresses the economic precarity that again and again we have heard from survivors is a central barrier to their leaving dangerous situations, accessing the services they need, and beginning to heal. It does this by providing low barrier, urgently accessible grants to survivors for housing, medical, counseling, legal, and other immediate expenses and services, which could range from moving costs to mobile phone costs to costs associated with developing a safety plan and more. Intro 154, it's an online portal and a written resource guide where all of the services offered by every agency and CBO are clearly laid out, our community-based organization, clearly laid out in all of the major languages, including Braille, all in one place. And this addresses the problem of access that often arises even when the city already offers the service a survivor needs. Since different services are housed in different departments and organizations, it is often hard to find out about, locate, and access the service a given survivor needs. Resolution 111, a resolution in support of a state bill to provide paid leave to survivors. Like the vast majority of my fellow New Yorkers, I support universal paid leave. However, even if that takes a while to win that, there are certain sets of people we all should be able to agree require immediate attention, including survivors of domestic, intimate partner, sexual, and gender-based violence. For the sake of survivors, as well as their loved ones and coworkers, we should not be forcing them to work amid the trauma of violence. For too long, the city has cynically used violence survivors' trauma and pain merely as a pretext to ramp up policing, prosecution, and incarceration, leaving the actual survivors without access to the services and the protections that they need. No longer. I would also like to thank my Chief of Staff, Stephanie Silkowski, my Legislative Director, Madhuri Shukla, my Communications Director, Jesse Meyerson, as well as the committee staff for their work in preparing this hearing. And I would also like to recognize the members of the committee who are present, Council Members Stevens and Richardson Jordan. Also want to acknowledge and thank Brenda McKinney, Council, and Anastasia Zamina, Legislative Policy Analyst, and I'm going to turn it to the Committee Counsel to administer the oath.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner, members of the administration, if you can please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions today? Thank you. And with that, we can turn to the administration's testimony. Commissioner?
Good morning, Chair Caban and members of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity. I am Cecile Noel, Commissioner for the Mayor's Office to End Domestic and Gender-Based Violence, or NGBV. I am joined by Deputy Commissioner Hannah Pennington. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you about access to services for survivors of domestic and gender-based violence in New York City. NGBV partners with numerous city agencies, over 100 not-for-profit providers, and community stakeholders to implement innovative initiatives like the New York City Family Justice Centers. Our agency directly manages a contract portfolio of prevention and intervention programming. builds capacity for agency staff and community members to identify and respond to domestic and gender-based violence through outreach, training, and develops policies and best practices to strengthen the city's approaches to these issues. We collaborate with city agencies and community stakeholders to reduce barriers and ensure access to inclusive services for survivors of domestic and gender-based violence, including intimate partner and family violence, sexual violence, stalking, human trafficking, and other forms of GBV. NGBV is committed to ensuring survivors have knowledge and access to many city and community-based services. To the many community-based services New York City has to offer. In 2018, NGBV launched NYC Hope, a web portal that provides educational materials and comprehensive information on services available to survivors. In developing NYC Hope, NGBV partnered with Cornell Tech to ensure the development of an accessible platform that protects survivors' privacy and security. During development, NGBV consulted with domestic and gender-based violence service providers, New York City agencies, and survivors of domestic and gender-based violence. Survivors also participated in user testing to evaluate the platform's accessibility and utility. NYC Hope includes a resource directory that allows users to search for community-based providers in all 5 boroughs. The site currently lists 121 programs that serve survivors of domestic and gender-based violence. Users can filter providers by borough, service type, population served, language including American Sign Language, wheelchair accessibility, or remote or in-person services to find a program that best meets their needs. Currently, the site uses Google Translate to convert text to languages other than English. We are in the process of humanely translating NYC Hope into designated citywide languages. NGBV partners with the New York City Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, DOIT, to maintain and update NYC Hope, including quarterly communication with service providers to review and update organizational information on NYC Hope. In 2020, as a component of the city's COVID response work group on domestic and gender-based violence, NGBV worked with community-based organizations to update the resource directory. Updates included increasing the number of services listed, creating a remote service directory, and providing direct links to hotline and text and chat services maintained by providers. During the development and implementation of these changes, survivors participated in user testing to ensure NYC Hope continued to meet their needs. Currently, providers can notify NGBV of any service or information changes or requests to be added to the site. In the coming months, we plan to incorporate a link on NYC Hope that will allow providers to easily notify NGBV of new or expanded services. NGBV's outreach team, Family Justice Center staff, and partners work to spread awareness about NYC Hope. In 2020, during the height of the pandemic, NGBV coordinated a widespread publicity campaign to elevate NYC Hope. This campaign included Notify NYC text messages through the Office of Emergency Management, a public service announcement, paid online advertising, and a social media toolkit. NGBV continues to partner with agencies and community-based organizations to publicize NYC Hope. For example, NGBV is ensuring NYC Hope is incorporated into new office initiatives, such as our recently launched HUD grant, in which NGBV and HRA are integrating the unique needs of domestic and gender-based violence survivors into the city's coordinated entry system. In the city, coordinated entry uses the Coordinated Assessment and Placement System, CAPS, to streamline the way people move from homelessness into housing. Later this month, anyone seeking housing through CAPS who identifies as a survivor of domestic and gender-based violence will be referred to NYC Hope for domestic and gender-based violence-related support services. Regarding Intro 154, we believe that NYC Hope meets the criteria for an online portal as described in the legislation. We look forward to discussing this legislation with the Council to ensure our goals are aligned with the needs of survivors. NGBV is committed to identifying strategies and implementing programming that financially supports survivors and recognizes the great value in low barrier and flexible funding initiatives for survivors and their families. In June 2020, to address the increase in emergency needs for survivors during COVID, NGBV launched the city's first financial relief program for survivors. NGBV's program incorporated best practices from other successful flexible funding models across the country and built upon existing city investments for domestic and gender-based violence survivors. The program goal was to serve 312 families with an average disbursement of $1,500 per client. However, shortly after the launch, the program received an overwhelming number of requests, 693, and were able to fund 377 clients with grants that averaged $1,243.37, exceeding program goals. The program distributed a total of $468,750. In addition to directly funding emergency relief, the city is playing an active role in connecting survivors to federal funding and vouchers. This year, NGBV convened regular calls and collaborated with 35 community-based providers who receive Federal Pandemic Emergency Assistance Fund, PEAF it's called, allocations through the New York State Office to Prevent Domestic Violence, or OPDV. This collaboration included raising implementation questions to OPDV and expediting responses to providers, creating a platform for providers to learn from each other, to expedite dispersal of funding and linkages to programs to maximize the number of survivors served. Service providers distributed both small and large amounts of financial assistance to survivors for expenses such as furniture, moving costs, rental arrears, and basic living expenses like clothing and food. NGBV is also the designated city agency for the Emergency Housing Voucher, EHV, for survivors in community who are fleeing domestic or gender-based violence. NGBV was allotted 1,168 of the city's EHV voucher allotment and launched its EHV program in July of 2021, creating the first opportunity for survivors to access emergency housing vouchers without having to provide criminal justice supporting documentation in more than a decade. Our agency provides intensive and ongoing support to a large community of service providers to onboard them to the Coordinated Assessment and Placement System, CAPS, and help them navigate the EHV application process. In partnership with the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, HPD, NGBV is contracting with New Destiny Housing Corporation to fund housing navigators who can support survivors who have received EHV vouchers in their search for affordable housing and the lease process. We support the goal of of Intro 153 and look forward to discussing a version of the bill that aligns with our existing work in this area. As to Resolution 111, we recognize that many survivors and their families require extended periods of time to address and heal from domestic violence. The city recognized this by working with the council to pass the city's Earn Safe and Sick Time Act in 2017, and we support the state action to further support survivors. NGBV is committed to continuing to explore ways that we can support survivors, provide low-barrier financial relief, and spread awareness about available services. We welcome the opportunity to discuss this further with the council and identify shared goals. We look forward to continued collaboration with our city agency colleagues, our community partners, and other stakeholders to better serve survivors. Thank you for the opportunity to appear here today. I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Okay, and we will now move into council member question and answer.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. At this committee's February oversight hearing, which was also on domestic and intimate partner violence, NGBV testified that the continuity of domestic violence and intimate partner violence services were a priority during the pandemic, and the city is committed to expanding those prevention efforts. This includes the K5 ABCs of Health Relationships program implemented last year, data analysis, facilitating working groups and convenings with diverse stakeholders, the training teams that work with partner organizations, reviewing those policies and protocol, launching the Voices Survivors Committee, and an advisory council for feedback. But delving in a little bit more, can you describe how the pandemic has impacted the delivery of services for those who are immigrants, for those who are justice involved, and how it continues to inform the future of delivering services?
So let's start with those who are justice involved. We continue to support criminalized survivors in every way that we can. We believe that we need to offer services for those who want to engage in criminal justice in terms of having access to those services, and those who do not. We have partnered with both the Women Prison Health Association as well as Steps to End Family Violence to actually put case managers in our family justice centers to better work with survivors who are criminal justice involved, to ensure that they understand the options that are available to them and can advocate at every level for what they might need in terms of being able to respond. Immigrant survivors are welcome to our Family Justice Center. We serve everyone regardless of their immigration status. We also work within each of our Family Justice Centers to ensure that providers are on site that represent the communities in that borough and can provide services in ways that are culturally appropriate for survivors across the spectrum. But we work with our community providers to ensure that they can do that on site in our Family Justice Centers.
Thank you. And does the city anticipate increased demand for certain services? And if so, what will it take to meet that anticipated need?
Survivors across the spectrum have a variety of needs, and we hope that the city, as a city, that we'll be able to meet those needs. We're currently looking, our EHV program is a wonderful example of meeting a need around housing. It's the first time that the city has actually allocated vouchers to a city agency to survivors that are, one, not in shelter, and two, not criminal justice connected. This is a huge win in terms of being able to connect survivors to permanent housing, which we all know is a very important step in achieving stability and security for survivors and their families. So we believe this is a huge step, and we would love to see that continue.
But specifically, do you anticipate increased demand for certain services? So, for example, during our February hearing, NGBV testified that throughout the pandemic, there was an increase in demand. And there also needed to be a pivot in how those demands were met. And so specifically, my question is, we've experienced this increase in demand throughout the pandemic. We're not over that. Like, the pandemic is still here. It's still happening now. There are a ton of different other difficulties that our community members are facing. Do you anticipate a continued increase in demand for certain services?
We believe that safety planning and counseling is a very big need for survivors. They've shown that time and time again. We continue to see that most of our requests for services will land around safety planning, so we see that as a need. And it continues, it was a need during COVID, continues to be a need now, and we anticipate that that will continue as well.
Yeah, and again, I apologize for asking multiple times, but I just want to make sure I'm teasing out the information that I'm hoping to get an answer to. Is you're describing what the need is, but do you anticipate increases in demand?
We anticipate that as it is safer as we move forward out of COVID, we will probably see folks coming to us now that did not feel safe coming to us during COVID to access services. So the answer is yes, I think, as we go forward.
Yeah, that's great, thank you. And in anticipating an increase, specifically, what will it take for y'all to meet that anticipated increase?
Currently, we are meeting the need. We're meeting the need through our Family Justice Center. We're meeting the need through our partnerships and community. We don't do this alone. We do it very much with the help of our community-based programs. And so as we go forward and we see those needs, we will work with our partners to make sure that we're moving forward. And we are still committed to doing hybrid models where possible, where not everyone is coming forward in person, and we've been able to manage that as well. But we do that alongside our community partners.
And how is the PEG affected NGBV staffing, or does NGBV have concerns about capacity related to understaffing or certain survivor services over the next year, especially those that were not discussed at this committee's hearing in February?
The PEG did not affect any of our programs.
Do you have any concerns about capacity? I mean, again, going back to the statement around an increase in demand, I think we heard testimony at the last hearing about, a population of survivors that weren't being met, needs weren't being met. And so do you have any concerns about capacity related to your current staffing, even if you wouldn't describe it as understaffing? And do you have a request or a need to expand your capacity, and what would that look like?
Currently, we are funded and staffed to meet the needs of our programs and our service delivery. If that changes at any point in time, we will engage with OMB at that point in time to discuss that. But currently, we are staffed, and our programs are funded at the levels that we need them funded to be able to meet our need now and going forward. And
I understand that your assessment is that the programming that currently exists under NGBV, that you have in your opinion, the resources and staffing to execute that programming. How would you measure that up against the size and ability of that programming to meet the need in the community, right? Like, is there a desire, a willingness to be able to expand that capacity to match up to the size of the need that we're seeing in our communities?
We are always examining our programs, we're always looking at the numbers, we're always looking at the needs. And when we do see that, we will engage in a process that means that we will engage with our funders and both private funders and city funding to see how we can explore ways to either meet the program need or expand it as necessary, but it's an ongoing process. We're always looking at what we're doing. We're always trying to innovate our programs as well, and see how we can work with what we have and do better, and serve providers and serve survivors holistically.
Thank you. So, our committee has repeatedly heard, including through previous testimony and meetings, that Latinx and immigrant survivors are especially vulnerable to economic destabilization after violence, particularly due to limited English proficiency or lack of employment authorization, which often means financial dependency on an abusive partner or taking work in degrading conditions or unsafe conditions just to be able to survive. And so my question to you is, could you please describe, which NGBV, programs and resources, such as the Portal Plan being discussed today as part of Intro 154, is language accessible? And has the city engaged in a multilingual media campaign to reassure vulnerable immigrant survivors that New York City remains a sanctuary city and that they can seek help from from law enforcement if they choose to do so, but that they can, reach help in other spaces and places and access other systems?
We have engaged in both an online media campaign in reaching survivors in multiple languages. We've done that periodically prior to COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, and it is a periodic campaign that goes up in different languages. We work with our partners in this to make sure that partners on the ground are able to convey both our services, their services, our services, other agencies across the city. It is an ongoing, continual process of making sure that we are doing everything we can to outreach to communities. We have an outreach team that also goes out into communities, that also looks to ensure that some of the communities with the highest DIRs, some of our BIPOC communities, are aware of the services that are available both through our office, but more importantly, available in their community. They may not always feel comfortable coming to us, but we want to ensure that they understand the services that are in their community that can help them. And
this is not so much a question as a comment, but you testified at the beginning of this hearing that that currently NGBV is using Google Translate to do some of the translating, and I would just say anecdotally, as a New Rican kid taking a heritage speaker Spanish class, currently, one of the first things my instructor said, and that we get told in lots of spaces, whether in the context of issue-based campaigns, other campaigns, that relying on Google Translate as the tool in which to expand language access is not up to par, and would expect professional language services and translation services, and so would implore NGBV to change that and do better on that front. My other question,
if I could just respond to that, we
Sure.
are on July 15th, right? I think July 15th, we have endeavored to have our site humanely translated, and so the launch of that will be July 15th.
Thank you. And I understand you have the portal, but is it correct or accurate to say that you don't have the printed guides that go beyond the digital divide, and into communities in various languages, including Braille?
Our site is available to those who are visually impaired so that they can, it's actually accessible along the spectrum of disability, so they can. Are you asking, do we have printed materials in Braille? Yeah. We have found that the level of ability for us to keep that updated, any printed material, is really challenging. And we find that this is much better if we do this online. The material goes out of date very quickly. And services are added all the time. Our providers are changing what they do all the time. And so, but in piloting NYC Hope, we made sure that the site was accessible visually for those who have disabilities.
So would expanded access to more resources and capacity, I mean, in theory, you would be able to handle, again, bridging over that digital divide and providing regular access to printed materials. I'm assuming, I mean, again, I'm just going to point out the fact that, you know, if we're going to meet people where they're at, we cannot rely solely on the digital front. We see that in this space. We've seen that in our school spaces and families that have struggled to be able to access technology. And it's just simply true that we're going to be leaving people out unless we are regularly giving an option to be able to have hard copies of.
And we
information.
do provide palm cards. When we do community outreach, we do give some limited printed material, but it is not, it's printed material that can get them quickly to the hotline, can get them quickly to our services. And we feel that that's really important.
Oh, and those printed materials, are those ever in Braille?
They're not currently in Braille, but we can explore that.
And at February's oversight hearing, again, which was related to domestic and intimate partner violence, the committee heard during public testimony that the courts continue to experience issues related to DV cases. Is, you know, NGBV aware of these issues? What exactly is being done to assist survivors who might be struggling to navigate these issues in the legal system? Is there anything the council can do to assist? And, you know, I think that crosses over the realm into you know, civil and family court assistance as well.
You know, we look forward to engaging with the council and council members around our services to better understand how we do our work in community, what ways we can improve. We value very much the input of the council. You represent communities that are so very important to us. And we want to be able to ensure that our work in your community and every community across the city is truly reflective of the needs of those communities. And we can do that better when we engage in dialogue. You look at the many things that we're doing and have input in some of how that can be done more effectively in your communities. I didn't either.
Are you ready for questions?
And I will say, so I've mostly asked my questions related to the bill about the portal. So I did want to I have questions on the other two bills, but I did want to create some space for my colleagues to jump in and ask questions as well.
So just for the record, I'd say we're moving.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move to Councilmember Richardson Jordan and then Councilmember Stevens if you have questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the testimony. It was really insightful, and it was great to just learn more about the services and what's already available. And definitely, I commend Chair Caban for holding this hearing and for spearheading this package. I'm a proud co-sponsor on the Support Survivors legislative package that we're talking about. I had a couple questions. There were a few references to low barrier financial relief, and I was just curious to know more about that. Is that the vouchers that you're speaking about, or is there some other things that are also part of that?
During COVID, we received private funding through the Fund for the City of New York that enabled us to launch the first ever microgrant program, which is a low barrier, flexible funding stream. Was limited, that was provided to us to distribute to survivors of domestic and gender-based violence. We partnered with a community-based provider to really administer those funds on our behalf. But what we really saw there was, one, the ability to help survivors really stay in community and stay safe when they have access to dollars that they can really make choices around. And that was so important. So many of I talked about the average grant was around $1,200. We served 377 survivors through that program. We were able to help survivors do everything from, buy a laptop because they needed it for their child to be able to do the work at home, to buying a refrigerator because it couldn't stay in the apartment without a refrigerator, to addressing rent arrears and other things and it was low threshold. All they had to do was apply. All they had to do was ask. And the dollars were available to support them. And what we found so profound is that everyone who participated in this program received a grant, talked about how it helped their stability, it talked how it helped their safety. If they needed to buy, something for the apartment that made sense for them and for their family to remain there and remain safe, they were able to do that with those dollars. And so it promoted not only their safety, but their well-being. And that was so critical. But it was one-time funding, and it was through private dollars.
Okay, got it. And thank you for that insight because it sounded really powerful to me. I'm a survivor of domestic violence myself, and I feel like that's the number one thing is you feel financially stuck. So it just sounds like a great program. I wanted to ask about prevention because you were saying that some of the services are around that, and particularly the partners around prevention, and if there are any LGBTQ partners specifically, as that is, it's an epidemic in our community as well.
Okay, so prevention, I'm a firm believer in prevention. And it's so important, and if we are, in fact, to really turn the tide and end domestic and gender-based violence, we need to think about our young people, we need to think about our youth. We need to begin to have these conversations earlier and earlier to begin to really address it. We have a program now in high school that's called the Relationship Abuse Prevention Program that's run by HRA. It's called RAP. We have a program in middle school that's called Early Rap, where we're reaching those critical early, the years that they're all exploring and developing and really thinking about ways to engage with each other. And what does healthy behavior really look like within that? And we recently launched last year the ABCs of Healthy Relationship, which is an online portal, an online curriculum available to teachers, educators, parents, caregivers of any kind, to begin to have the discussion with the K-5 group, which looks a little different than it does in middle school. In K-5, we're talking about empathy, we're talking about being a good friend, we're talking about boundaries, we're talking about the building blocks that can help young people begin to develop the skills that they need as they progress to be able to understand healthy behaviors and understand healthy relationships. We also work with AVP, who's one of our providers. Many of our GBV providers work with the LGBTQIA+ population across the spectrum. But we do have AVP who specializes in that particular population. But believe me, our providers are very knowledgeable, very caring, and work with that population also.
All right. Thank you. I think I'm out of time, but I did just want to quickly ask for on July 15th with
Councilmember, if I could just, the commissioner asked if I could add this, that I just thought you'd like to know that we have the city through MOCJ, the APIP programming that runs through the criminal justice system. It's called Dignity and Respect, and it didn't previously have a component that was specifically for the LGBTQ community, and it's totally in development, but it is something that we'll be working with MOCJ on because it's been a need that's been identified through that criminal justice-based program. that we worked closely with them to create the curricula and to create new trauma-informed programming for people who are causing harm in their relationships.
No, that sounds like a good step. I wanted to ask for the translation, turning to human translation on July 15th. Do you have a list of which languages are going to be available?
Sure, it will be available in the designated city languages, which are Spanish and it's 7 languages, correct? 7. Yeah. The designated 7 languages for the city, which include, give me 1 second.
I don't think it's in the Q&A.
It is.
We just say it is 7.
It is. Okay, it will be available in Arabic, Bengali, Chinese, French, Haitian Creole, Korean, Polish, Russian, Spanish, and Urdu.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevens?
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Chair Kaban, for having this hearing, especially when in my district, a New York City transit officer was killed yesterday by her estranged husband. And so just understanding the urgency of why this is needed and something that needs to be talked about and uplifted because these things are happening. And especially when you think about an officer, you wouldn't think that they would be subject to domestic violence and a killing, but we know that's not the case. And so I know Councilmember Richardson Jordan already asked about prevention, and you guys talked about a curriculum that you are offering in high schools and middle schools. But what I'm finding more and more, curriculums are nice, but I would love to hear you talk more about what the implementation looks like, how many schools are actually being implemented in, and is there an evaluation process of knowing if it's actually working or things like that? Because like I said, I hear more and more every time we ask these type of questions, like, oh, we have a curriculum, but if it's not being implemented in schools properly or actually being done, it kind of goes to wayside. And sometimes those things don't get implemented. It's just the curriculum that's in schools that don't get used. So I would love to hear you talk more about what the implementation looks like and how many schools you're in. Thank you.
Okay, so if we start with the high school program, which is the Relationship Abuse Prevention Program, that's in about 98 high schools. It is administered by a community-based organizations. There are 3 community-based organizations that put a designated staff person in each of those schools to be able to deliver the curriculum that we're talking about. So there's a staff person there that is hired by the community-based agency who works in that school, who does classes within the schools for the students. They also work with other parts of the school to promote an environment that's about healthy relationship. In many schools, they have a newsletter. They have projects that they do in various months to highlight both the issue of healthy relationships and what they do. So that's the high school program. The middle school program, again, 3 vendors, the same community-based organizations are, again, have staff that they hired that's working with a group of middle schools and doing the very same thing, delivering the curriculum in the school. So it's not left up to the overworked teacher. There's someone who comes in the classroom who does that, who engages the students in that dialogue, in that discussion, talking about what that means. The program has a summer component where we take students from those schools and train them to be peer leaders, so that it's great to hear it coming from me, but it's so much more powerful when it comes from a student, right? When a student tells a student, hey, that's probably not a good behavior. Hey, this person might not be treating you appropriately. So we really build, or the program tries to build, peer leaders so that their voices can be heard throughout the school, can be the voice in the lunchroom, can be the eyes and ears to actually talk about what's going on in the school, and that's so important. In middle school, it is a curriculum, but we are working with the teachers and caregivers and thinking about how we can make this curriculum look very much like the middle and high school. We launched it last year, so it is fairly new, but our goal here is to ensure that that programming for the K through 5 looks very similar to the middle and high school that we're doing.
Thank you for that. I'm sure you don't have the list now, but is it possible to get the committee a list of the high schools that you're in and the
Yes.
middle schools? And then, because I know you said it's 98 schools, what is the plan to look like to get to the rest of the high schools? And I know you said it started last year, so is it like in phases? Are you going to scale up? Is there an assessment process to see how it's working and checking and things like that? By the way, I want to just say I love the parent mentor piece. I think those are not used enough because young people never want to hear from adults anyway. So also thinking about, is there a prevention piece for adults as well? I know staying in schools, that's really nice, but sometimes we miss it, right? Especially not being in 98 schools, but thinking about how to, some peer-to-peer stuff for adults might be helpful as well.
So we can certainly follow up with you on the list of schools that we're in for RAP and for early RAP. We can also, you asked us several questions, so I just want to make sure. What are the?
On the, so glad you asked these questions. On the evaluation front for
Yes.
Early Rep, so Early Rep is the program that our office directly oversees. Teen Rep is actually overseen by HRA, but we work very closely together. And HRA, through the same three providers, like we do for Early Rep, we regularly, through our research and evaluation department, do surveys to evaluate the learning of the students, both before and after one session, but many of these educators, and in the middle school program that we directly oversee, their educators are going to multiple middle schools, and they may go 6 times in a couple months, but they may go a couple times, they may go the whole semester, and we do surveys at different points. And some of that information is actually on our website that shows a great amount of learning that these young people are showing from before a workshop to after, and then before the beginning of a series and the end of a series. And I think the other question, about adult programming you mentioned. So we launched this year an adult abusive partner intervention program. It's called Respect and Responsibility. And that program is actually the first of the kind for the city that is a non-mandated program. So the people that are eligible for it are people who are not being mandated by a criminal court, for example, to go to that kind of program. And there are components to that program, including an introductory session that is meant to be available to folks who are concerned about their behavior, as well as folks who may have already caused harm in their relationships. And I would say on the peer-to-peer front, I would probably talk through the work that we're doing with survivor leaders to your point, to be able to learn from each other. And we have a committee of survivors that have gone through programming in New York City called Voices, and really making sure that we're empowering survivors at the appropriate time based on where they are in their journey, to be able to give back and to work with others who are going through similar issues. I don't know if that answers your questions, but that's what came to my mind.
No, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just want to thank both of my colleagues for your questions and also for your, sharing your personal experiences or connections to the things that your communities are dealing with. Yeah, I wanted to, let me grab that for a sec. So I know that when Councilmember Richardson Jordan was asking her question, you had mentioned that the 2020 micro grants helped, quote, people stay in the community and stay safe. Can you tell me what percentage of those grants that were issued were used for housing?
We can follow up with you with that. That information I don't have now, but we can certainly follow up and tell you. Anecdotally, most of the dollars that were spent and went to survivors went to support some aspect of housing. And the evaluation of the microgrant is on our website.
What is some aspect of housing mean?
It could be rent arrears. It could be, as I mentioned, a refrigerator because they didn't have the money to buy a new refrigerator, and it would have meant leaving an apartment that they had, if only for a refrigerator, if only for furniture that was destroyed by an abuser, so they needed the dollars to replace the furniture. There were things that were housing related, including actual rent.
And so, what are the city's biggest challenges to providing housing for survivors? Like what outreach is in place surrounding the importance of transitional housing and supporting families to ensure communities understand what's going to be put
I'm
in
sorry,
place?
can't hear everything.
Sure, I'm sorry. So my question is, what are the city's biggest challenges to providing housing for survivors? And then just more specifically, like, what's some of the outreach that's in place surrounding the importance of transitional housing and supporting families to ensure communities understand what's going to be put in place and why? What are other efforts that NGB has or the city has found to be most successful in addressing these challenges, especially in the last 5 years or since the pandemic and during the pandemic? And then just describing all of the permanent housing options available to survivors of domestic and gender-based violence.
So for survivors, I think for everyone in the city, the challenge is the same. It's no different for survivors. It's safe, affordable housing, safe, clean, affordable housing, which I think is a challenge for this city, period, and certainly for survivors of domestic and gender-based violence. We work with our city partners around ensuring that survivors know the housing options available to them. Several of those options are run through the Department of Social Services, or HRA. So there's city FEPS A and B. If you have an open PA case and you meet the criteria under city FEPS, you can apply for that. There's NYCHA. If you meet the criteria for NYCHA, you can apply for NYCHA. There's a current Section 8 that I described with his first-time emergency housing vouchers that we have been issuing, and trying to help survivors access safe, affordable housing. I mentioned in the testimony that we have a contract with New Destiny so that they can actually help them, because once the voucher is issued, that's just half of the battle. The other half of the battle is to find the housing at a cost that this voucher can cover. And so New Destiny is working with, they have a cadre of landlords who operate in the affordable housing market or low-income housing market that can work with survivors and have them access apartments that are safe and affordable. We are doing that currently with the EHV vouchers, and there's always regular Section 8, but that waiting list is very long. Outside of the EHV process, there's a regular Section 8 that folks can apply for. They're the housing options that are available not only to domestic violence survivors, but to homeless folks across the city as well.
Thank you.
And we do a lot of training of providers around all of the housing options that are available, because each process is a little different. And our partners in this world have to understand that so that they can help the survivors that they're working with determine the best option and apply for that. And a good chunk of our work over this last year has been in connecting domestic and gender-based violence providers to the coordinated application process called CAPS, which I mentioned, which has been used by the homeless side for a very long time, but has not included domestic violence survivors. It does now, and so providers of domestic violence and gender-based violence providers across the city are now being trained on the CAPS process so that they can begin to use that portal, which will help determine which of the housing processes, applications are best suited for this particular family, this particular circumstance.
Thank you. And I know you mentioned NYCHA briefly. For survivors without financial resources, the DV shelters or NYCHA safety transfers are their only option. But to access the DV shelter, survivors often must repeatedly call the shelter hotline until housing becomes available. We've heard in prior testimony that this is burdensome. It can discourage survivors from seeking help. What, if anything, has the city done to address particularly that issue?
We are really looking at the hotline currently. We're evaluating how we can improve the hotline process. The hotline contract is held by MOCJ. It's it's managed by multiple agencies, including HRA, but we have heard that, and we are in the process of really looking at how we can improve both the hotline and access to shelter through the hotline.
That's a retail trick. We used to do that when I worked retail. Oh no, she's the boss. Yeah, that's a trick.
It's not me.
Yeah, somebody over there.
And this goes around the corner, right?
If someone on the Zoom, if you can please check that you are muted, or if we can mute everyone on the Zoom, please.
Okay, thank you. So in June 2020, the city launched the Emergency Financial Relief Microgrants Program for survivors of domestic violence and gender-based violence. And while Intro 153 was not based on this program, which was the city's first financial relief program for survivors, and provided funding, as you talked about, to 377 clients with grants that average around a little over $1,200, is a lot, I think, that we can learn from the city's experience from it. And so, I think my first question is if you would describe the biggest challenges, the lessons learned, and successes from the microgrant program.
The biggest challenge was demand. Clearly, I reported the numbers. Within opening the program, we had well over 600 applications. And so clearly that speaks to the need. We believe in looking for opportunities where we can to ensure or replicate programs that look like this that can offer low barrier, flexible funding to survivors. Our experience has shown that it really can make a difference in the lives of many people if we have that that kind of resource available. So that's one. As I said before, we learned that, for survivors, this was a huge success. It was empowering to be able to access the dollars quickly that they needed to be able to promote their safety, promote their stability, address a critical need. That was very important. Again, I would refer you back to our evaluation on our website because it goes into much greater detail. One, about the launch of the program, what we did, what types of grants were actually issued for what, and really talked about the experience of both the provider as well as the survivors who access the program.
And has NGBV envisioned how the grant program, which would be required by Intro 153, would differ or be similar to the 2020 micro grant program, both in practice and in theory?
We've looked at the legislation, and we really hope that we can talk about how this aligns with our experience in greater detail. We'd love to sit down with the council and really look at that, both based on our experience, based on our evaluation, and looking at the legislation and the intent of that.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to those conversations, and even naming that is our commitment. And just to hear today, have you discussed making any improved version of the 2020 microgrant program permanent, in addition to any consideration of Intro 153, and just even to get the conversation started just a little bit, if so, what resources would y'all need, and how can the council support them?
We've certainly tried to learn from our implementation. We are always looking for dollars to support initiatives that we have on the table, and this is one of them. Constantly thinking about the ways in which, based on what we've learned, if there were another iteration, how we could improve the program. But we haven't. It's just been a learning process for us, but I think first and foremost, identifying ways that we can fund that would be important.
Right. And that moves perfectly into my other questions. Have you, at this point, considered a proposed funding level for this program?
No, we have not. Not yet.
Have you considered or thought about where the funding would come from? Would the approach be similar to the way that the 2020 microgrant program was funded, or do you envision that this could ever become a permanent program?
Up until, we have been looking for private funding to do what we did before, which is often a great way to test models and think about initiatives that we can launch, and that's what we've been really looking at.
And has there been thoughts regarding what the grant levels would be and whether there would be caps on the amounts, and thoughts on the purposes the grants can be used for?
We haven't gone into that detail yet. We just haven't, but.
Well,
you know,
we invite being in conversation around.
Right, and in
those
conversation, we can certainly think about that.
Yeah. Let me pull up what that. Okay. And what do you think might be the role these grants had, the micro grants, you know, for keeping people housed?
As I said before, a good number of grants were used towards ensuring that survivors could stay stably housed by addressing a critical need. So we want to do that. And it's important to ensure that survivors can access the program easily, right? It's the beauty often of private dollars is that you can do that. You can really set up a rubric that allows for that very quickly, and we will, we'll just continue to assess as we move forward what pockets, where the funding can be accessed, and that will determine what the scope of a program could look like for us.
And before I move into shift my line of questioning, I do, want to sort of like make an acknowledgement that y'all have actually done like a good job in getting these micro grants in the hands of folks, and that's why I am like very much like encouraged, by the possibility of the work that can be done here. I think that I certainly am confident in your ability to distribute the grants because you did a good job of it during COVID, and so there's like a good framework and groundwork done there, and so I think that we're in agreement. That people know what they need, and we just need the resources to be able to give it to folks. So I think there's a lot of alignment there with the administration. And I just want to make sure that we continue to focus on its role on keeping people housed. I think that's like the really, really big thing. But I do want to ask a few more questions that are more related to Intro 154. Do you envision that the portal described by the intro will be integrated with the portal and services offered through NYC Hope, or whether the city would create a new portal? What are the pros and cons of each approach?
I would hope that we can sit down with you and talk about NYC Hope. I don't know if you or your council members have gone to the site, looked at the site, actually navigated your way through it. We put a lot of time and thought. We engage survivors in that process. And so for me, it would be sitting down with you and hearing from you what you think the site needs, right? Why reinvent something when we can improve what we have? And if there's a way to do that, we're willing to sit down and talk with you, walk through the pieces, see where you've identified deficits or things that we can improve. And we always want to improve. So I would hope that through that conversation, we will just be elevating a site that we've already put a good number of resources into, but can improve. And I'd love to hear from you about how you think we can do that.
Right. And with regard to the current online services, how many unique visits to the NGBV portal did you get in FY21?
In FY21, we had over 50,000 visits to our site. Over 18,000 of those were new folks visiting our site for the first time.
Go ahead. Sorry. And what are those numbers looking like so far for fiscal year 22?
I don't have that number with us, but we can certainly get back to you on that.
And how do the numbers from fiscal year '21 compare to the pre-pandemic years?
They actually increased substantially during the pandemic. And so when you compare it to our pre-pandemic years, they were certainly lower pre-pandemic. They went up a lot during the pandemic, and I think a great piece of that was our outreach, both through OEM and through other sources. Our online presence was greater, driving information and folks to our site who needed information, who wanted resources, who wanted community resources. And so we've seen both a jump during COVID that has continued to exceed pre-COVID. Even though we're not out of it, it still exceeded pre-COVID.
And how does NGBV currently screen the services listed in NYC Hope, and what are the protocols to ensure that the services are up to date? I know that you hit, I know you hit what languages it's available in, and we talked a little bit about how the things are translated, and would love to hear more about ensuring the translations are accurate. I know you mentioned that you're switching over on July 15th, but if there's more information that you'd like to offer on that, that would be helpful. I'll start there and then continue with a few more.
As I said before, it's being translated into the major languages that are required by the city. We agree that Google Translation is very challenging, and so that the new way that the translation will be done will be fully, and it's called being humanely translated, and will be much more accessible to communities and folks who speak that language. So we're very excited that we're now taking this additional step that we had identified before. But again, it takes a little bit to have these things be programmed, and we work with Do It, who is the manager of all city websites, to be able to move that in their queue as they are able to. So now we will have that moving as well. We have identified easier ways for providers to update their information as it changes. We understand that things happen in community-based organizations, and we want them to be able to update that quickly. So we've developed a quick way for them to send us that information. That will be launching then as well. We're constantly looking at ways of improving how folks are really accessing the information, which is why I think engaging with the council in this way will be really helpful, so that we can hear your thoughts on it. We engage with survivors, we've tested it with survivors and with our providers as well, but I think the council has other perspectives that maybe, can be incorporated into what we're doing to ensure that we're doing it well. So that's, that's what I have to offer on the translation. And something else? Is there something?
Yeah, and I only have a couple more questions, and then I'll wrap up. So MOCJ also has a portal for victim services. Is there information that lives on their portal that should also be on the NGBV portal, and vice versa?
I think if you put them side by side, you'll see there are many agencies that share. There are agencies that will be listed on their site that will also be listed on ours, and we think that's wonderful. So there should be no wrong door. If you go through that door and you need information that's based in community, you should be getting that information. You should be getting a provider. If you are a survivor of sexual assault and you go to MOCJ and you click, you should be getting some of the same providers that are in ours. And we work closely with that office to ensure that we're coordinating, sharing, collaborating, listing resources, supporting each other in this work. We are partners in every way with MOCJ and MOCJ's office in ensuring that survivors have the resources, services that they need.
So, and just to be clear, so you're saying not identical, but significant overlap would be fair, would be a fair assessment.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned that there is close partnership and communication, but more specifically, like what quality control goes into making sure that the information about a service provider is consistent across platforms?
Service providers give us the information. We work with them to ensure that the information is accurate. Many of the providers listed on our site often have contracts with other city agencies across the board, not necessarily with us. They just have to have something with other city agencies. They're also trusted community partners who might not, whose services are known and who have a base of serving survivors that we will include in our website as well. So I think you will find that we've used a number of criteria, if you want to call it that, but that's probably a strong word, in terms of ensuring that we're listing the broadest list of agencies possible. But remember, the agencies come to us and want their information listed there.
Thank you. And do you see any vulnerability in having systems like the Hope Portal and the COVID grants, but knowing that they're not codified, so they can just end with a change in leadership or funding, for example?
I think that we have an administration that's committed to serving survivors. We're committed to serving survivors as an office within this administration.
I mean, there are term limits, though.
But we were here before, and we were here before that one too. And I think I know that our presence, our advocacy, has moved this issue in many ways. Our office has grown. The commitment to providers has grown, and to survivors. So what I am saying is that I know there's a commitment of the Adams administration to really ensure that survivors are getting access to the services that they need. And I believe that our office is here to ensure that that commitment continues for this administration and into any other administration.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions. No, they're just.
These just came in from the provider, but I think that they may be asking about undocumented neighbors and housing, if they'd have access, if there have been concerns about access for undocumented.
I do actually. My apologies. So, what of in terms of undocumented folks who might be in need of housing, no, I think we hit that. Yeah, we hit it earlier. I'm gonna rescind that. But the last thing I will say is, in my opinion, I think that while there's a clear commitment to do the work that y'all are doing, in my mind, codification can help shore up the programming in the long term. I think that it's worth doing. I think it's worth not leaving anything to chance or the idea that things will stay stagnant or stay the same. We've seen so much transition and change and uncertainty, especially over the past few years, that I don't think anything is outside of the realm of possibilities, as much as I would like to think otherwise. But I will leave with that point. And again, I want to thank y'all for coming and testifying here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, we will be moving to public testimony, and that portion of the hearing. We'll just wait one moment for a transition. This will be hybrid, so both remote testimony and in person. Okay, I will be calling the names of the witnesses in the first public panel. We will start by just calling all of the names of the witnesses and having them prepare. So panel one will be Nicole Tayuga from Translatina Network, and apologies in advance for any mispronunciations. Eileen Mayer from Vocal New York, CRU, Catherine Shugru dos Santos from AVP, and Michael Pollenberg from Safe Horizon. We'll begin in just one moment. And again, this will be both a hybrid and an in-person panel. We will start with three remote witnesses, and then move to Mr. Pollenberg at the table. Thank you. And please note, we will also be using a 3-minute clock. Okay, and with that, we will move to the first public witness. And apologies, just for the record, my name is Brenda McKinney. I'm the committee counsel to the Committee on Women and Gender Equity at the New York City Council. Our first witness will be Nicole Tayuca from Translatina Network. You may begin your testimony when ready.
Starting time.
Apologies, just one moment. It does not appear that our first witness is present. We are just checking. The next witness is Eileen Mayer. You may begin your testimony when the sergeant calls the clock. Thank you.
Starting time.
Oh, shoot. Hi, I apologize. I have to stay off the camera because my reception is a little crazy right now, so I do apologize for that. My name is Eileen Marr. I'm a civil rights union leader at Vocal New York, and I'm a woman who is a survivor of domestic violence, which I was also criminalized for. New York City needs a major infusion of domestic violence services, shelters, and protections. During the times that I was experiencing abuse at the hands of my former partner, I sought out assistance from the city, only to be told over and over again that there were no open availabilities at some, and others simply did not have room for a new client indefinitely. It is not just an order of protection being issued that will quote unquote solve everything. Some people may need to leave their home, obtain a new form of childcare. There are needs for financial assistance, personal protection of themselves, their children, and other family members, and the maintenance and protection of current employment and assistance in securing new employment. We are requesting that the City Council pass these and others like them sooner than later. During the time that I was being abused, my former partner and I resided together. Yes, police were called several times, however, they were not helpful in the least. I was at a loss, as many are, as what to do with my home, lose my apartment that I was paying all of the bills for. I had a business and a companion service dog. There was nowhere for one to go, and my city had basically turned its back on me. But that was then. We have the opportunity to right not all, but many of the wrongs of the past. My comrades and I are urging you to pass the bills that have been put before you today and put before you in today's meeting, and any and all others that may come before you in the future. Domestic and partner violence does not simply go away if, and I say if, you get to the point of a judge issuing an order of protection. In fact, without any corresponding and immediate services, it can make matters worse. It is to many just a piece of paper. This is what my abuser told me, and many others that have come before and after me. New York must become a leader in the fight against the plague of gender-based violence, partner violence, domestic violence, and it is all one parasite that can be eradicated if we take the right steps. Steps that have been put before you in these bills today and many others that will come before you in the future. Again, I thank you for allowing me to testify, and I wish everyone a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We will take all questions and answers at the end of the panel, so we'll move to the next witness now. The next witness is Catherine Shugru dos Santos from AVP. You may begin your testimony when the sergeant calls the clock.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, Chair Caban and esteemed colleagues. My name is Catherine Cat Shugru dos Santos, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director for Programs at the New York City Anti-Violence Project, or AVP. I want to thank Eileen and all the other survivors who stepped up to testify in these and other hearings. As both a survivor myself and an advocate, I stand with you. My pronouns are she, her, or anything respectful, and I'm grateful to be testifying at this hearing at such a crucible time in our city and wish to express ABP's endorsement of the Support Survivors legislative package. As the COVID-19 pandemic wears on and identity-based hate violence linked with white supremacy groups escalates against LGBTQ communities, making survivors of intimate partner and sexual violence even more vulnerable, ABP and our collective movement's work is that much more important. For more than 40 years, ABP has served New York's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and HIV communities through direct services and advocacy. We are the only organization in New York City that provides free LGBTQ culturally specific counseling, legal services, and advocacy with survivors of intimate partner violence. We're the only LGBTQ specific rape crisis center in the state. We operate a 24/7 English-Spanish bilingual hotline, which recently introduced a texting service to support survivors of all forms of violence. And we oversee the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs and the New York State LGBTQ Intimate Partner Violence Network. Research and ABP's 42 years of experience show that LGBTQ people experience intimate partner and sexual violence at the same or higher rates as our cis hetero counterparts. At ABP, 65% of the survivors we support are queer and trans people of color. LGBTQ people experience higher barriers to safety, support, and services, and the Support Survivors Bill package takes steps to make urgent and long-term support more accessible to survivors. Intro 153 would create a program for low barrier grants, as has been discussed by NGBV, for survivors to meet their economic needs. As the founder of the New York City Task Force on Domestic Violence and Economic Justice, or DV-EDGE, and as someone who built, grew, and oversaw economic empowerment programming, both at Sanctuary for Families and at ABP, I cannot stress how important it is to provide direct financial assistance to survivors that is easily accessible and fast-tracked to ensure that survivors have what they need for emergency and ongoing needs. Direct grants to survivors help them navigate the economic consequences of intimate partner violence, like housing instability, food insecurity, ongoing medical bills, and other expenses for themselves and their children. The impacts of abuse are long-lasting and can harm a survivor's finances for years to come, as for survivors who go into credit card debt or take out high-interest loans to cover an emergency move, or who suffer identity theft and coerced debt from their partners. Because the economic consequences of IPV go on long after the physical violence has stopped, survivor grants must be accessible not just in the immediate aftermath of an abusive incident, but long-term. This grant program will dovetail with the additional housing options for survivors, including the EHV program that NGBV spoke about. Intro 154, which creates the online portal that we discussed, we are committed to continuing our partnership with NGBV to ensure that NYC Hope is accessible to all as the portal, including LGBTQ people, immigrants, and survivors living with disabilities. Enhancing and empowering this existing resource will strengthen its effectiveness and reach. And lastly, we strongly support Resolution 111, which calls on the state to pass legislation that would provide survivors and their families with job-protected paid leave, similar to what we have in New York City, so that they can use that for activities relating to their actual or perceived status as a domestic violence survivor or the family member of a survivor. Ensuring survivors statewide have access to what we have in our sick and safe leave that Commissioner Noel referenced will really make a difference, and I would love to see that extended to the state. So thank you for listening to the experts at ABP through the oversight hearing and bill drafting process. We look forward to continuing to work with you, Chair Caban, and other members of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity to improve access and increase resources for all survivors of violence across the spectrum of gender identity and sexual orientation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Now we'll move to the final person on this panel, Michael Pollenberg, who is present in chambers. You may begin when the sergeant calls the clock. Thank you.
Starting time.
Thank you so much, Chair Caban and members of the committee. I'm Michael Pollenberg. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs at Safe Horizon. We are the nation's largest nonprofit victim services organization. We offer a client-centered, trauma-informed response to about 250,000 New Yorkers each year who experience violence or abuse. I'm going to talk briefly about intros 153 and 154, and then I want to respond to some of the questions that have come up about the hotline. Safe Horizon is a huge proponent of offering regarding Intro 153, we're a proponent of offering low barrier grants to survivors to cover expenses that might otherwise create barriers to safety. And in fact, we included this in our recommendations that we gave to the mayoral candidates last year, and I'm happy to supply the committee with a copy of that. So while we support the overall goal of Intro 153, we just have a few questions about how to manage the endeavor, including what, if any, impact the grants would have on public benefits that survivors may be receiving. Would there be any cap as to how much a person or family could receive, or on the number of grants? And I think Kat Shagru talked about, DeSantos talked about having the grants accessible over an extended period of time. Will the designated community-based organizations work together to develop the program to ensure program consistency? And can the grants also be extended to victims of sexual assault? Regarding Intro 154, I think the commissioner responded to the chair's question about whether or not we need a new portal, whether it should be incorporated into existing portals. We have one from MOCJ, we have one from NGBV. Perhaps there can be some consolidation to make sure that we have one portal that really meets the needs of survivors. And the committee may also choose to work with the administration to create a far-ranging public awareness campaign in multiple languages that can help ensure that survivors across the 5 boroughs know how to access the portal and learn what services and programs can be accessed. Regarding shelter and hotlines, because this came up in a few different times over the hearing, it is much more difficult for a single adult to get into a domestic violence shelter than it is for a family. The system was configured for families many, many years ago. A survivor applying to shelter with 2 children has about twice as much likelihood of obtaining a shelter bed as a single adult does. So while the city under the previous administration added capacity for single adults in the DV system, I think much more is really needed to really make sure that we're meeting the needs of survivors no matter what size of the configuration of the family. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you. First, I just want to thank the entire panel of folks who testified. Ms. Eileen, thank you for your personal testimony and sharing your story. Kat, I extend the same gratitude to you, and also thank you for the work that you do at AVP. Deeply, deeply grateful. Michael, I just also want to add, in addition to that gratitude, that I really appreciate raising the important points and questions that you posed, and so certainly look forward to being in conversation about those things as well. I don't know if my colleagues have any questions, and I also just would like to acknowledge that a committee member and our colleague, Councilmember Gutierrez, has joined us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
This concludes panel 1. Thank you so much. We'll be reading the names of the next panel in just one moment, so we'll move to the next panel. Thank you. Just one moment.
You made some
All right, I will be reading the names of the next panel. First, I'll read the names of all of the panelists. They are all remote. And then I will call you one by one for your testimony. Panel 2 will be Emily.
Muted.
Hi, I'm sorry. I think it's not muted. Panel 2 will be Emily Miles from the New York City Alliance Against Sexual Assault, Gabriela Sandoval-Requena from New Destiny Housing Testimony. Again, apologies in advance for any mispronunciations. Tatiana R. from WCJA, Testify on Incarcerated Women, and Rachel Bronstein from Her Justice. So we will begin with the next witness, the first panelist on panel 2, Emily Miles. You may begin when the sergeant calls the clock.
Starting time.
Right. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'd like to thank Councilmember Caban for her leadership by introducing this package of bills that brings the needs of survivors to the forefront. My name is Emily Miles, and I'm the Executive Director of the New York City Alliance Against Sexual Assault. The mission of the Alliance is to prevent sexual violence and reduce the harm it causes through public education, prevention programming, advocacy for survivors, and the pursuit of legal and policy changes. In doing so, the Alliance works to disrupt systems and institutions that unfortunately can re-traumatize survivors when they need our support the most. I am here today to advocate for the interests of survivors of sexual violence for whom the services and supports offered through this legislative package could be critically important. Though the intent seems to be to include all survivors in the legislation, as currently written, it is limited in scope to survivors of domestic violence, and this could mean that many survivors of sexual violence are left behind. This is important for two reasons. Many instances of sexual violence do not occur in the context of domestic relationship. Sexual violence is an umbrella term encompassing a broad range of behaviors, including sexual assault, rape, sexual exploitation, and stalking. While sexual violence is often a weapon of power and control deployed in the context of a domestic relationship, sexual violence advocates regularly support survivors who have not suffered domestic violence. Most survivors of sexual violence do not know their perpetrators, and that association can be causal, not familial, and therefore not qualifying as an intimate partnership. Sexual violence survivors are also routinely in need of the very same emergency and support services as domestic violence survivors. Survivors have a particular need for emergency housing that could be met with support for these low barrier grants. Sexual assault advocates support survivors as they move forward from a myriad scenarios of sexual violence that, while not domestic violence in nature, have made the survivor feel unsafe in their homes. These include people who have been assaulted by a neighbor, a building superintendent or staff member, couch surfers who are temporarily staying with a friend and while in that apartment are assaulted by a permanent resident of the home, or victims of stalking or any other type of sexual violence where the perpetrator knows and could reasonably return to where the survivor lives. We hope that expanded language will allow survivors to also access these much needed supports. Because sexual violence is an umbrella term, we understand the difficulty there can be in drafting language that will be inclusive of their needs, but we know that we can, in partnership, work with this committee to ensure that they are appropriately represented in these pieces of legislation. And as a final note, we would not recommend only using the term gender-based violence as a catch-all term and ask that sexual violence be explicitly named. Sexual violence is a weapon of oppression wielded by someone against another with relatively less power. This power difference can be based on race, economic class, disability status, immigrant status, and often gender. But this violence is not always perpetrated based on a gender power dynamic. And naming all sexual violence as gender-based violence can erase the experiences of those survivors. Thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to working with you and the whole City Council to ensure the inclusion of sexual violence survivors in these important pieces of legislation.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And just as a reminder, apologies for not stating this earlier, but we will be accepting written testimony for up to 72 hours after the start of the hearing. Written testimony has no limit, so please also feel free to submit written testimony in addition. The next witness on this panel is Gabriela Sandoval Requena from New Destiny Housing. You may begin your testimony when the sergeant calls the clock.
Starting time.
Good morning, Chair Caban and members of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity. Thank you for your leadership and for the opportunity to testify on behalf of New Destiny Housing at today's hearing. I'd also like to thank the survivors of domestic violence for testifying today and for sharing their experience and their valuable perspective. My name is Gabriela Sandoval Requena. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I am the Senior Policy Analyst at New Destiny. Our mission is to end the double trauma of abuse and homelessness for domestic violence survivors. We do this by developing supportive housing for homeless survivors, assisting those who are fleeing abuse to obtain subsidies and find apartments, and by advocating for more housing resources. New Destiny is also a co-convener of the Family Homelessness Coalition. For far too long in New York City, domestic violence has been the #1 driver of family homelessness. In 2021, more than 10,000 New Yorkers entered the domestic violence shelter system, and more than half of them left for another shelter instead of finding an apartment of their own. Shelter will always be an important resource, but it cannot be the only resource. More must be done to effectively support survivors' housing stability. We commend Chair Caban and the Council for bringing attention to the plight of survivors of domestic violence and the dire need for more resources by holding this hearing. Regarding Intro 154, we are thrilled about the Council's commitment to make information about resources for survivors more accessible. This is a big opportunity to improve NYC Hope and the MOCJ portal by creating processes to keep the information up to date while ensuring that the information is available in multiple languages and updated like that. On Intro 153, we applaud the initiative to create a housing stability program for survivors. There is a high demand for low barrier grants. The programs that are currently in place are scarce and underfunded and often limit the ways in which the grants can be used. Survivors know what they need. To allow them to utilize the grants as they believe necessary is of utmost importance for them to achieve and maintain housing stability. We would like to respectfully suggest the following to enhance the proposed legislation: to implement the grants as flexible funding. Second, to build off the lessons learned from the 2020 microgrant pilot. And third, to ensure that the funding is baseline for the program so that it is permanent. On behalf of New Destiny, I would like to thank again the Council for the opportunity to testify. We are submitting written testimony and look forward to continuing to work together. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for your testimony. So we'll wait to have questions at the end of the panel. The next witness will be Tatiana R. from WCJA.
Starting time.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tatiana Hill, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Women's Community Justice Association, known as WCJA. We're dedicated to improving the lives of women and gender-expansive New Yorkers affected by mass incarceration. Founded in 2018, WCJA is led by justice-impacted women and focuses on change through policy, advocacy, community organizing, and service. WCJA leads the Beyond Rosies campaign, which advocates on behalf of women and gender-expansive people at the Rose M. Singer, otherwise known as Rosies. Goals are to decarcerate down to under 100, close Rosies before the city's planned date of 2027, and transfer
We may be having technical difficulties. The volume is skipping. Please hold one moment. I'm sorry, Ms. Tatiana R., I think you're frozen. If everyone can please hold one moment, we're having a technical difficulty and we're addressing internally.
Sorry about that. I think my connection disconnected and came back.
Okay, well, if you want to continue your testimony, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The measures proposed today would help many people at Rosies who are domestic violence survivors to avoid being criminalized in the legal system and end up at Rosies. We urge the city and state to do more regarding criminalized survivors. WCJA recently wrote a report with the Rikers Commission that found that 45 to 97% of people diverted from Rosies suffer from physical, sexual, and/or emotional violence. Nationally, an estimate of 77% of women in jail are domestic violence survivors. Studies have found that this abuse plays a significant role in criminal allegations people face, and the women's justice involvement is more likely than men's to flow from their relationships with family or intimate partners. The city's current plan to close Rikers will relocate women and gender-expansive people to a new facility in Kew Gardens that opens in 2027. They would have to share spaces and staff with men, and with all of these high rates of sexual abuse, domestic violence, and any exposure to men or catcalling inside of a jail, that can be re-traumatizing. Additionally, women and gender-expansive people who live in Queens will be especially vulnerable to exposure to their same abusers who they are incarcerated because of. Many of them are facing trial in a similar facility. Nationally and internationally, standards recommend completely separate facilities for men and women in custody. Beyond Rosies is advocating for those who are at Rosies currently to be relocated to their own separate site at the former Lincoln Correctional Facility located on West 110th Street in Harlem. This should be transferred into a women's facility for justice that provides trauma-informed, holistic care to put women and gender-expansive people on the path to successful reentry. Beyond Rosie's is pushing for improved incarceration, particularly for domestic violence survivors. I'm going to tell you a story about a woman named Stephanie, who's one of our members. She was diverted from Rosie's in 2018, and she really shows why gender-responsive care is really an alternative to Rikers and to incarceration, and really could save a lot of these women that we're referring to. Stephanie was pregnant when she first went to Rikers on charges related to her relationship with an abusive partner. She recently returned to New York City after serving a prison sentence for giving her boyfriend drugs while he was in prison. When she got home, she was raped by that same partner and became pregnant. Stephanie feared for her life, and she went to a domestic violence shelter. Her parole officer at the time claimed that she failed the drug test, and Stephanie is telling us that this is not true, that she has no report of that, and she failed to report her new address, which is at a shelter, and they were aware of that. Because of that parole violation, she was then sent to Rosie's. And while she was in Rosie's, she was pregnant, and she had sleep apnea. So that means that she was snoring very loudly, and the people who she slept next to were disturbed by that, and they were abusive to her. Things were thrown at her. Officers were yelling and cursing at her regularly, as well as other people who are incarcerated with her. And she was in fear for her life at different moments. And she also was at risk for dying in her sleep because she was not allowed to have the machine that normally keeps people with sleep apnea awake and alive while they're sleeping. So 3 months after she left Rosie's, 3 months after she was in Rosie's, the court agreed to place Stephanie in an alternative to incarceration program called Shiro. Shiro offers transitional housing and services for women and their children. So therefore, Stephanie had a safe place to stay and raise her daughter. And she enrolled in culinary school, and she found permanent, affordable housing. WCJA thanks you for considering these important measures, and we would like to work with this committee on ways to help domestic violence survivors that have been criminalized, to help get them help and support rather than punitive measures as what jails currently do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We'll now move to the last person on this panel before our final panel, Rachel Bronstein from Her Justice. You may begin your testimony when ready, or when the sergeant calls the clock. Thank you.
Starting time.
Thank you, Chair Caban and the Committee on Women and Gender Equity for the opportunity to submit testimony in particular on the critical matter of paid leave for domestic violence survivors and resolution number 111. My name is Rachel Bronstein. I'm the Director of Policy at Her Justice, a nonprofit organization that for 29 years has stood with women living in poverty in New York City, using a pro bono first approach to recruit and mentor volunteer lawyers to provide free legal help to address individual and systemic barriers in the areas of family and matrimonial law. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted how Her Justice clients and women like them are the backbone of our communities, serving on the front lines as essential workers and carrying the brunt of the pandemic's economic burden. But at the same time, they faced heightened rates of intimate partner violence and unemployment and increased caregiving responsibilities. We are grateful for City Council and the committee's longstanding focus on these issues and for support from the council that allows Her Justice to provide direct representation to and skilled advocacy on behalf of women living in poverty. Approximately 80% of Her Justice clients are survivors of intimate partner violence or gender-based violence. Based on our experience working with these women, we support Resolution 111 because a strong and comprehensive legal framework supporting the rights of survivors is critical to their individual stability and to ameliorating systemic issues related to domestic violence. As we did in 2017 when the city was considering enacting paid safe leave, we are grateful for the opportunity to speak to the need for a comprehensive state law that would allow survivors to seek a range of needed help, in particular legal services, without detriment to their employment. Civil legal services are critical for survivors of domestic violence. The effects of domestic violence in a survivor's life are pervasive. For many, fleeing domestic violence may lead to their first engagement with the legal system by participating in the criminal justice system as a witness or seeking a civil court order of protection. It is less well known that domestic violence survivors need to access civil courts for other relief, child and spousal support orders, custody, and divorce to secure marital assets. Legal services are essential but not sufficient. Our clients cannot maintain safety or meaningfully participate in their cases if they do not have a job or sufficient income. Consider stories like Maria's, who was fired from her job as a secretary after she missed 3 days of work to attend court hearings in her custody case against her abusive ex-partner, who repeatedly called her workplace during the litigation. Without a job, Maria resorted to government assistance to make ends meet. With stronger legal protections, New Yorkers like these clients would be able to participate in seeking needed legal relief to help them move forward as survivors of domestic violence and maintain employment that is critical to their family's stability. Thank you to the council and the committee for dedicating this hearing, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. This concludes this panel. Please hold one moment.
Thank you. I just again want to take a moment to extend gratitude to all those who testified. Emily, I really appreciate the points that you raised about reaching as many people experiencing violence as possible. So we'll absolutely look into shifting language on that front. Gabriella, thank you for leaning into the importance of housing stability, and certainly for the thoughtful suggestions you made on flexible spending and building on the lessons learned from the micro grants. And again, gratitude to Tatiana and Rachel as well for your thoughtful testimony. And I will turn it over to my colleagues if they have any questions or comments. Councilmember Richardson Jordan.
Yes, I'll echo Chair Caban in just saying thank you for the testimony, particularly getting to hear that story about criminalized survivors and hearing about, a particular survivor. It just speaks to the need for us to have resources and funding and options outside of the criminal justice system, because we see also that sometimes our survivors are criminalized. I did have a question. It could go to a number of folks, but I think the representative from New Destiny might be the best person. I just wanted to ask, because during this hearing, we've heard from administration that the legislative package that we're talking about today isn't particularly necessary, that somehow, they're already working on these things. And there seems to be a little bit of resistance to codifying these services and making it legally required. And so I just wanted to hear from you as an advocate, what do you think about that? And do you think it is necessary to really have it codified?
Thank you for the question, Council Member. I think that the short answer to that is that it is always helpful to have programs that assist survivors to be part of the city charter, just to ensure that the program has sustainability and continues to exist throughout time and passing of administrations. So we would love to sit down perhaps with you and along with the commissioner and the NGBB to see what the opportunities are to perhaps revise or amend the languages so that this could be moved forward. But the short answer is yes, it is always easier to have and best to have things codified into the city charter.
All right, thank you.
Were there any other council member questions? Okay, this concludes this panel. Thank you so much to all of the witnesses who testified today. We'll now be moving to our final panel. I will call the names of all of the panelists, and there are 2, and then that will conclude the hearing. However, we will check for anyone we inadvertently missed before concluding. So the next panel will be Erin Stern from the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation, followed by Shayna Weisbrot. Again, please forgive any mispronunciations, but Ms. Weisbrot from Day One. So moving to panel 3, Erin Stern, you may begin your testimony when the sergeant calls the clock.
Starting time.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chair Caban and members of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity. I am Erin Stern, Manager of Grants and Foundation Relations with Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation. When our founder, Joe Torre, was a child, he witnessed the unrelenting verbal abuse and saw the results of physical harm inflicted on his mother. The perpetrator was not some stranger, but his own father. The emotional and physical pain his mother suffered scarred her life and Joe's too. As Joe grew up older and came to terms with his experience, He wanted to ensure that no child grew up as he did, excuse me. Feeling alone and afraid, that's why he started Safe at Home over 20 years ago in New York City. Safe at Home currently operates 17 school-based prevention and intervention programs across the country called Margaret's Place, named after Joe's mother, 4 of which operate in New York City. Margaret's Place is a youth-friendly space within schools staffed by a full-time master's level counselor who provide counseling to youth, anti-violence workshops, peer leadership, engaging youth to break the cycle of violence, and support for school staff and parents. Safe at Home believes all survivors should receive access to resources necessary to begin the path towards healing. Ensuring survivors can easily access these resources is crucial to their success. Developing a portal with easy access to resource guide, particularly developing the materials in a number of languages and inclusive of services for teens as well as adults, will allow survivors to access the support they need. Further, survivors often need a myriad of services on their path towards safety. Therefore, the resource guide should not only include a list of providers, but a comprehensive list of all of the types of services a survivor could possibly access. In their path to safety, survivors are often faced with immediate financial needs, housing, medical, counseling, legal, and other expenses. It is a high barrier for individuals making the decision to leave an abusive relationship and domestic violence. It is one of the leading causes of homelessness for women and children. Providing access to low barrier grants is critical to support survivors' path towards safety. I want to thank the committee for allowing me to provide testimony today.
Okay, you can finish your sentence.
That was the end of my sentence.
Apologies. Thank you so much. Okay, we will now move to our final witness. Again, we will check for anyone that we inadvertently missed at the end of the hearing. Our final witness will be Shayna Weisbrot from Day One. Thank you.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. My name is Shayna Weisbrot, and I'm an Equal Justice Works Legal Fellow at Day One, which means that I'm an attorney on their legal team and I am testifying on their behalf. Day One is the only nonprofit in New York that commits its full resources to addressing intimate partner abuse among youth ages 24 and under, serving 25,000 young people through our educational, social, and legal programs annually. We are very grateful for the opportunity to speak to the Committee on Women and Gender Equity today about the Support Survivors legislative package, including Intro 153, Intro 154, and Resolution 111. As we are fully and strongly in support of each of these opportunities for young people that experience violence in their relationships. At Day One, we will always center young people in the development of intimate partner violence legislation and policymaking, particularly when you consider that nationally, women aged 16 to 24 experience the highest per capita rate of intimate partner violence, which is triple the national average. And often legislation is not designed with young people in mind, so we encourage this committee to ensure that this legislation and its implementation is responsive to the needs of young people of color, pregnant and parenting teens, undocumented youth, young people in care, students, and young survivors working multiple low-wage jobs. And recognizing a young person's needs in this legislation can be done in a myriad of ways. For Intro 154's Housing Stability Program, we would like to ensure that young people are considered covered individuals so they can access the low barrier grants as proposed. In addition, for this same piece of legislation, we'd like to ensure that individuals qualify based on their individual income as opposed to the household income, as many young people still live with their families and that household income could exceed the eligibility requirements. Yet they are still unsafe in that home and may not be able to leave for financial reasons. In addition, we want to ensure that youth have the ability to access these funds. So we hope that youth-serving organizations will be included as a community-based organization designee to distribute this grant, as we know that young people may not be connected to many other community-based services or city agencies. And finally, many of our young people might have the support of families and thus have stable housing, but could be in real need of financial support for their safety, for childcare, employment, or to foster financial independence from their abuser. So we would ask that the City Council consider other opportunities for emergency funding for young people that is not necessarily tied to housing. I would ask that this committee continue to consider the ways to center young people in the development of Intro 153 and Resolution number 111. For example, by considering the ways that the methods for outreach for each piece of this legislation will reach young people. Too often, the story told or the picture painted of a survivor of domestic violence centers the story of a cisgender, heterosexual, middle-class married white woman. We have learned through our nearly 20 years of work with young people that the stories, pictures, and experiences of survivors are diverse and dynamic. We want responses that are similarly diverse, dynamic, and for youth in particular, inclusive. You've submitted written testimony that provides a more detailed perspective and insight on each part of this legislative package if you would like further information. Again, we thank you, council members, for the opportunity to speak about these important issues affecting young people that are victims of domestic violence.
Thank you so much for your testimony. This concludes this panel.
Thank you very much. I want to echo those sentiments of thanks, especially the highlighting of the effects on young folks in particular. So thank you. And we'll pass over to my colleagues if there are any questions or comments. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and at this point, this concludes our public testimony. So we'll just do one check because this is a hybrid hearing to ensure that we have not missed anyone inadvertently. Are there any witnesses? You can use the raise hand function. Is there anyone logged in that we missed for the purposes of public testimony? We are not seeing anyone new. We're not seeing any hands. Okay, at this point, we have concluded public testimony in that portion of the hearing. So we'll move to the chair for final remarks.
Yes, thank you. I want to say thank you to my colleagues here in the committee staff, but especially want to thank everyone who testified, and first and foremost, those who testified and shared difficult personal experiences. And I think that what we have heard and seen is that while there are some good resources and programs out there, we absolutely need to ensure that they stay available to all of New Yorkers, that we're expanding capacity, reaching folks where they're at, and that we are ensuring that this is something that will go on, that this is the kind of support that will exist in perpetuity. And I also want to reiterate and invite folks to submit written testimony. You can do that for up to 72 hours after the close of today's hearing. And so thanks to everyone again, and look forward to moving this legislation forward.